Good
Recording in
evening.
progress.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the May meeting of the Wilmot Township Committee of Adjustment. I would like to introduce the members of our committee. This evening, we have with us Mr. Peter Rowe, Mr. Tyler Bowman, Ms. Louise Lalonde, Mr. Steve Miller, and my name is Wayne Roth. Also with us this evening, we have Mr. Andrew Martin, who is the township planner, as well as Mr. Cameron Miller, who is the township planner, and Mr. Miller will be introducing each of our applications. I'm not aware that anyone wishes to read the Territorial Acknowledgement, so I will do that. We have gathered in Wilmot Township on the traditional territory of the Neutral, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee and the Mississauga peoples. We also want to acknowledge the importance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant, a peace agreement made between Indigenous nations before the Europeans arrived. It characterizes our collective responsibility to each other and on to Mother Earth. We should take only what we need, leave enough for others, and keep the dish clean. By acknowledging this covenant and the First Nations, the Métis and the Inuit peoples, we are reminded of our important connection to this land where we live, learn, and work together as a community. We are an independent body appointed by Wilmot Township Council, and we have the ability to make minor changes to existing zoning regulations and to approve some changes to existing non-conforming uses, as well as to give consent. Each applicant will be notified in writing of the decision of this committee within 10 days, and with that decision will be instructions on how it can be appealed. Any decision made by this committee can be appealed to the local planning appeal board, and they will then hold a meeting and make a final and binding decision. If a decision on the minor variance or consent is not appealed, it will become final and binding after 20 days from the date of this meeting. The format of the meeting will be as follows. Mr. Miller I will ask Mr. Miller to introduce each application. The applicant will then have the opportunity to add any additional information if they choose to do so. Following this, anyone in the audience will have the opportunity to speak for or against this application. Committee members will then have the opportunity to ask questions and make comments, and then the committee will make a decision. Before we start, is there any pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act this evening from committee members? Seeing none. Mr. Miller, would you please introduce our first application?
Thank you, Mr. Roth. The first application is A05/22 concerning 337 Peel Street in New Hamburg. And so this application is proposing to reduce the southerly side yard setback of a two-story detached dwelling from 2 meters to approximately 1.5 meters, and to also increase the maximum allowable garage width from 65% of the width of the building to approximately 73%. So the property is presently vacant. It was previously developed with a single detached dwelling. The committee may recall that this property was previously subject to a severance application in 2021, which created 2 new residential lots. So to accommodate a single detached dwelling with a 2-car garage on one of the properties, a reduction in the side yard setback from 2 meters to approximately 1.5 meters is required. Due to the reduced lot width, a single detached dwelling with a 2-car garage cannot be accommodated on the property without also increasing the overall maximum allowable garage width. Staff did not receive any concerns in circulating the application and are recommending that it be approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Does the applicant wish to comment on his application? Mr. Martin, do you see any hands?
I don't see any hands, but if any attendee wishes to speak, if they just use the raise hand option at the bottom of the screen.
Well, if the applicant,
yep, I do. Yep, the applicant would like to speak, so I'll just.
Okay, certainly. Please go ahead.
You just have to wait for him to join here.
Oh, okay.
I'm connecting him right now, so yeah.
Go ahead, sir, if you're ready. Do we have it, Mr. Martin?
I think you just have to unmute, probably is the issue.
Oh, hello?
There we go.
Can you guys hear me now?
Sir. Yes, we can
Sorry
hear you,
about that.
sir.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to connect there through my phone. Yeah, I just wanted to just to make a comment why we did apply for the minor variance. It's basically, it was a home that we had pre-sold based upon a previous home that we had built on Snyder's Road. And basically we went with the same setbacks as that property, being both 40-foot lots. And only to find out after that we had to go through a minor variance application. So we would just ask for it to be looked at upon as an approved application and go from there. I'm sorry if not making too much sense. I'm pretty new to this minor variance application. I haven't been to one for over 10 years. So.
Okay, I think, well, yes, that we've got the maps in front of us here. We can clearly see what the request is.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to comment on this application? Mr. Miller, or Mr. Martin, do we see anyone?
No.
Okay, I'll then turn it over to members of committee. Any comments, questions? I don't see any from members of committee. I would then ask for someone to bring forth a motion to approve this submission. Moved by Mr. Bowman, seconded by Ms. Lalonde. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Mr. Miller, would you please introduce the second application?
Thank you, Mr. Roth. The next application is AO6/22 concerning 155 Hostetler Road in New Hamburg. So this application is proposing to increase the maximum allowable fence height from 1.98 meters to approximately 2.44 meters, and to also increase the maximum allowable fence post height from 1.98 meters to approximately 3.05 meters to accommodate a connection above the gate between the flanking gate posts and locations that were shown on the attached sketch in the report. So I'll just summarize again briefly here what was provided in the report. But so again, fence heights are regulated by the township's fence bylaw. It was introduced in 2009, and it allowed for minor variances to look at fence height increases on a case-by-case basis. Staff in the past have previously supported increases up to 2.44 meters, 8 feet on interior lot boundaries on the condition that neighboring abutting landowners did not have any concerns. So when we circulated this application, the neighbors to the east, Mr. and Mrs. Good, raised some concerns with the proposal. So their concerns related to how the fence height was measured, the height of the fence, and also some impacts on drainage. Overall, the Goods stated in their comments they weren't not opposed to fence height increase in the rear of the dwellings, but made some suggestions. So given these concerns that were raised from the Goods with respect to the proposed fence height, staff would suggest that an increase between the homes is not appropriate, but staff would suggest that an increase in fence heights between the rear of the existing homes and the rear property line is appropriate. And as was discussed in the report, issues relating to grading, and drainage don't form part of this application, and is to be addressed directly between the property owners. So staff have no concerns of an increase in fence height along the west side of the property, which is anticipated to be a future road connection with sidewalks. We suggest that if the fence is taller than 1.98 meters, again 8 feet, that it be offset a minimum of 0.6 meters from this western property line to mitigate any potential fortressing effect that this fence may have. And again, this is consistent with the original intent of the fence bylaw, so it's sticking with that intent. So regarding the increased fence height on the rear property line, staff did not receive any concerns from the landowner. And as shown in the report, photo provided, there's a large berm in the back, which provides some partial justification. So in response to some of the comments that received, staff have suggested a revised recommendation and are recommending that revised recommendation be approved. We've also prepared a sketch showing if there is some confusion in what exactly the recommendation is proposing. There is a sketch that highlights that that's been prepared that I can share later on if there's any questions from the committee on that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Miller. Does the applicant wish to address committee on this matter? Mr. Martin, do we have someone?
Yeah, John, the applicant here, I'll add him to the meeting.
Okay.
John, I think you just need to unmute. There we go.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Harness, certainly go ahead.
Okay, so my intent for the application is based on privacy concerns, and on one of the pictures that are submitted in between the house, I would like an increase of 8 feet in there, as it would cover my family room and provide privacy for my neighbor. The 8 feet there would probably start at the rear of the neighbor's home, not including where they have their addition, but where the original house was built and the original point of their home. That would give me privacy into the family room. And it's in this, yes, in this picture right here.
Mhm.
So you can see I have the board, I had a fence there, 6.5 foot fence installed there, but it did not provide adequate privacy to my family room. The goods could still see into my family room when they're walking on their porch or walking in the backyard. They could see right into my family room, and the 6.5 foot fence didn't provide privacy. So that's part of my intent for the request. Now, to go up the hill of the property, I'm willing to compromise on that and go with the lower fence height. But if the committee in their discretion could allow the 8 feet, it's about 14 feet from the rear point to the corner of my home, I would greatly appreciate that and be willing to compromise on the rest of the fence height to within the bylaw. And I'm going to put my gate there too. So if you can see, there's a board on the side of my home. So that's where I would put my gate.
Where would the gate go in that picture?
So the gate would go just on the other side of the window.
Oh, okay.
And the fence would come up the hill, because right now the new picture has, I have a concrete stairs that go all the way down like Mr. Good has on his side. I have the same thing. So I would bring the fence right up to the point of my home. Now I'm debating on the fence gate, but I think the fence gate might better suit there on the bottom.
Mhm. Okay, is there anything else that you wish to add?
No, just that my primary intent is for privacy, and that the 6.5 foot fence doesn't meet that need. Some of my children are close to 7 feet tall, so just even consideration for them as well due to their own physical height. And I did submit a picture of that, a supplementary picture of my children's height.
Okay.
My one picture has my daughter's fence heights like at her shoulder length, and my son-in-law, it's at his chest height, the 6.5 foot fence.
Okay. Are there any questions of clarification that any committee member would have? Okay, we'll proceed then. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to comment on this application? Mr. Martin?
Yes, Mr. Good is here. I'll add him to the meeting.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Good, go ahead.
Good evening, committee chair and committee members and staff. This is my wife, Ann, and we've lived at this property for, it'll be starting 9 years in June, and have enjoyed the property the way it is. The reality of owning a walkout lot is that you give up your privacy in your backyard. It's just the nature of the design. And when Mr. Harness moved in, he is the third owner actually, since we moved in. He expressed concern about privacy. So we put privacy screens up on our upper deck and lower patio in an effort to give him privacy. But the reality is when everybody's up on their deck, they look down into the neighboring properties. So you would have to put up a 20-foot high fence to give complete security and privacy in any backyard. But in understanding that, the other thing is that Mr. Harness's backyard is generally at a height of about 18 to 20 inches higher than ours. That's just the way the grading plan was approved. Our grading has been approved. We put an addition on 18 months ago and had the township staff verify that our grading is per the grading plan. So the grades are where they are. Mr. Harness put up a fence last fall against the existing 5-foot high fence to gain privacy and has since removed it, which sort of perplexed us why he did that. And that fence was in excess of the bylaw of 6'5" or 6'6". We didn't ask that it be removed. It's been removed. He's expressed to us that he doesn't want a fence now since this application was made. But we respect his right to apply for the application. We would prefer there not be any fence in the side yard because there are no opposite windows at grade level. He has a secondary bedroom window that's opposite our kitchen window. Again, we're careful to use a blind during nighttime hours. Again, a fence would have to be 14 to 16 feet high to fully block visual lines there. We're trying to be respectful, trying to be good neighbors. We've been good neighbors to 2 previous neighbors, but we understand he has a right to put a fence up the side yard, but we would ask that the committee not allow it to be increased because it will definitely negatively affect the enjoyment of our property. And the window he's concerned about in the basement, the previous privacy screen that he had erected completely blocked our sight line from our basement window, which is opposite his. He has told me that he could see into ours, but we could not see into his. So we have no problem with him looking into our window. We could not see into his window from our basement. And we use a blind there. We have that blind closed 99% of the time because, again, his concerns with privacy. So I would just repeat what we put in there. We're trying to be good neighbors. If he insists on having a higher fence from the back of our property to the back property line, we don't have a problem. The problem is it's very windy here, and the fence he erected last fall was negatively affected by the wind load. So if we go to 8 feet, we would ask that the additional 18 inches be privacy lattice or something that allows airflow through. The other concern I tabled, and I did talk to the chief building official about grading and understand it's a private matter, but I do have some grading concerns because, again, the fence that was built last fall, Mr. Harness backfilled up a good 8 to 10 inches on his side, and that's where he was measuring the height of the fence from. On our side, we built a retaining wall to retain our gardens so that the approved grade along the property line is maintained. and we no longer have a swale now, we only have half of it. So we can work together on that. We'd like to work with him on that, but I must say we need a definitive answer because the application's changed now. It showed a gate at the top of the steps or at the front of his garage. And now he wants to move it to the lower level. Doesn't matter. Again, it's his property. He can do what he wants, but we're definitely against a 10-foot high arch. There's no need for that, in our opinion, because you're not taking equipment down there. I understand the tie across for structural purposes for the fence, and 8 feet easily does that. And that's what's recommended by staff. We would be willing to accept that. So in summary, we haven't addressed the other fence areas because they don't affect us. But we have heard from other neighbors who are, and I don't know whether they filed concerns, they do not want to see 8-foot fences become a standard. So again, we would really prefer there not be a fence up the side yard. Mr. Harness has insisted that he's going to put one there, and that is his right. And 6'6" is what we're asking the committee to uphold. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Good. Members of the committee, any questions of clarification? Seeing none, is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to address the committee on this matter? Mr. Martin, do we have anyone else?
No.
None? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I'll turn it over to members of committee for comment and questions.
If I
Mr.
may,
Wilmot.
I think, Cameron, you had a sketch showing where the 8-foot to 6-foot transition would go. Is that the back of
Which
which property?
I'll share my screen.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so this sketch here prepared essentially shows the recommendation that staff have put forward, basically illustrates that. So in the 3 sections here, up until the red point, which is the rear point of Mr. Harness's house, being the subject property, would be where the fence height could not exceed 1.98 meters, which is what is permitted outright in the fence bylaw. And then in the remaining sections, the increase to 2.44 meters, being 8 feet. And then lastly, the fence posts not exceeding 9 feet, 2.74 meters, rather than 3.05, 10 feet.
So then just a question that I have, Mr. Miller, the entire white lines would then be the higher limit.
Yes, that's correct. The
Right.
western portion here combined with the northern portion and up to this portion identified in the east here, yes, would all
Yes.
be.
And that little black part on the left-hand side, is that a gate?
Yeah, these sections were identified by Mr. Harness as the approximate location of where he would like to place a gate. Obviously, subject to minor bit of change. Those were just the approximate locations of where he's indicated he would like to have a gate.
Okay, that's the only question that I had. Any other questions by any other members of committee? I don't see any. I don't have Mr. Miller on my screen anymore. What happened to Mr. Miller?
Which one?
Not Cameron Miller, Steve Miller. There he is. Okay, yeah.
I'm still here. I did have a question.
I had lost you. Okay.
A question for Andrew while I'm on here. The fence gates, as noted in the report, show closer to the driveways, and as mentioned in the owner's comments there, he's looking to relocate the fences, or sort of the gate to further back on the property. Is that reflected in the report? Is that something we need to note as a change? Does that affect the neighbor's perspective as to the height of the gate and what they would allow? I mean, to me, the high gate up by the driveway is more imposing than one that's tucked down between the houses. But again, that's my opinion. Or do we care? Is it strictly a comment on the height and where he chooses to put? We can't dictate in this forum where he puts that gate.
to answer Mr. Miller's question, that was addressed in the report and identified on the sketch in terms of the limit of the fence, in terms of the maximum height. In this portion here, basically from the, I guess this would be the north rear portion of the house, nothing could exceed 1.98 meters. And by virtue of that, the fence gate could also not exceed that either. But Mr. Harness has indicated that he's planning on putting now the gate here. But we've identified in the report that the fence height can't exceed 1.98 meters, which is already permitted outright. So Mr. Harness could choose in the future to put a gate in this location, not exceeding 1.98. Mr. Martin also looks to add a comment.
No, I just gonna say we did also include provisions for taller posts on that side, but it just specifies on the east side of the building. So whether it's at the front or at the back, it would still be on the east side. So that would just basically allow for an 8-foot post, so you can have a connection above the gate. So it doesn't specify that it has to be at the front or at the back. It just says the east side and parallel with the front of the house. So basically, a gate somewhere along that side facing the street, whether it be at the front or the back, would be permitted under the recommendations in the report.
It is identified in item 3 of the recommendation. Just, yeah, again, to Mr. Martin's comments.
Okay, well, I see that.
Okay, but again, this is strictly your recommendations. This isn't necessarily what we have to agree to, or.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Okay, are there any other questions of clarification? If not, I'll turn it over to members of committee for discussion. If there are none, no one is requesting, then I will move to the recommendation itself, which is that the committee approve submission A06022 by Mr. Harness. Everyone clear on that? Okay, I would ask then that someone bring forth that motion. Moved by Mr. Bowman, seconded by, I don't have Ms. Lalonde on my screen now, so I don't know where she is.
I'm here, but I only see the drawing. I'm not able to see the gallery anymore. Oh, no.
Well, I can see you now, so, okay. I have a mover, I need a seconder. Seconded by Mr. Miller. So the motion is on the floor. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just want clarification that the motion is to approve it based on the recommendations of the township, not based on the applicant's criteria.
Yes,
that is the motion?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Cameron, if you could just stop sharing for a minute, Cam, then everyone can see each other's face a little bit easier. There we go.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Now, do you want to repeat that comment, Mr. Miller?
Yes, I'm
Mr.
just
Stephen.
clarifying that I was seconding the motion based on the fact that we are approving the application based on township's recommendations, not necessarily as the applicant submitted.
That is my understanding. Is that correct, Mr. Martin? Yes.
That's
Yes,
the recommendations. If
That
that's
is the motion I put forward.
Right
Based
on.
on the
Yes, it is.
recommendations of the
Right on.
township, yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Okay.
And with that clarity, I'm good.
Again, Ms. Lalonde?
Yeah, with that clarity, then I'm okay. I
Okay,
need that
good.
clarity
All right,
as well.
All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you all for attending the meeting this evening. And our last order of business this evening is that we need to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Moved by Mr. Rose, seconded by Mr. Bowman. Any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Mr. Martin, do we have any applications for June?
I'll let Mr. Miller respond to
Mr.
that.
Miller, okay.
Yes, we have one that has been filed, so we're targeting June 1st, pending committee availability.
Okay, June 1st. Is everyone okay with that? Yep. Good. Thank you very much all for attending, and please stay safe. We'll see you in June.